They thought Earth was just another weak planet. They had no idea what was coming. The transmission was faint, a ripple through subspace barely strong enough to register on the Empire's deep net array. It had no encryption, no formal designation, just a loop of pulses and a strange harmonic signature that, to the Anari, sounded eerily like a scream trapped in glass. But it wasn't a scream. It was the first signal from Earth. Admiral KRYYX of the Anari Dominion had been tasked with tracing the source of the transmission. From his perch aboard the observation dreadnought Arctilas, he reviewed the decoded pattern, brow plates twitching in mild amusement. Primitive, he muttered to his science officer. Crude, clearly sent in desperation. Behind him, the star map shimmered, marking a small blue planet in an uncharted corner of the spiral arm. They called it Earth. Another pre-FTL species, likely facing extinction, his tactician sneered. Shall we prepare an envoy or an extractor? Neither, KRYYX decided. Send a probe. I want to see the face of a species crying for help. The humans, however, weren't crying. They were waiting. The probe descended over the Pacific Ocean, its shimmering metallic hull reflecting the golden sunset as it sliced silently into Earth's atmosphere. It parked itself just above a human naval destroyer, a relic of Earth's own military might, and opened its broadcast channel. Anari First Contact Protocol. Designate species. Designate leader. Designate surrender. No response. Then, a voice. Smooth. Calm. Deadly certain. This is Admiral Lee Voss of the Terran Defense Command. You are trespassing in Earth's atmosphere. Identify and depart. The Anari probe scanned again. Metal ships. Combustion engines. Biologicals with no active psionics. It hesitated until its translator pinged back a secondary data stream embedded in the human's words. Not a cry for help. A warning. In orbit, the Anari bridge fell silent. That was command-level syntax, the linguist stammered. And there was a recursive encryption key behind her voice print. They expected us to come. KRYYX narrowed his eyes. Begin species assessment. I want everything. Biology, sociology, military. How much damage could they cause if provoked? Answer: far more than anticipated. The preliminary report stunned the Anari elite. Earth's ecosystem was classified as a death world, gravity just shy of crushing, storms of planetary scale, temperatures that could melt synthetic alloys. The species that evolved there, humans, were carbon-based omnivores capable of surviving near-vacuum conditions for minutes, rebuilding limbs with bone regrowth, and enduring prolonged starvation through metabolic adaptation. More terrifying, they had waged war on themselves for millennia, billions dead, yet they thrived. No hive mind, no centralized control, just chaos and an unbreakable will to survive. KRYYX convened a meeting with his high command. They should have destroyed themselves 100 times over, he argued. But they didn't. That signal wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a beacon. He stared at the distorted waveform still looping behind him. It was bait. Back on Earth, Admiral Voss watched the probe retreat, its mission incomplete. Around her, the command room hummed with silent activity. They took it, her exo said, wide-eyed. You think they'll fall for it? They already have, Voss replied. Our message was simple. She looked up at the projection of the Anari dreadnought orbiting Mars. Their arrogance was predictable. Their surveillance patterns even more so. We didn't scream. We growled. In the Anari throne chamber, the Empress herself reviewed the findings. You're telling me, she hissed, that the species sent a decoy signal not to summon help, but to provoke a test? KRYYX bowed. Yes, Empress. They wanted us to come. They planned for it. The Empress clicked her mandibles in displeasure. Have they begun assembling allies? No. They've contacted no one. Then perhaps they are foolish after all. KRYYX straightened. Or they simply don't need anyone. Log entry, Terran Defense Command, Project Echo Flare. Classified Level Omega. Subject: intercepted Anari communication confirms arrival within Earth system. Update: Decoy signal successfully transmitted. Psychological profile of alien leadership confirms overconfidence. Next phase, prepare demonstration. Ensure they understand the difference between a plea and a warning. They laughed at the human size until the apex predator knelt before them. The halls of the Council of Galaxis rang with laughter. Their skeletal structure is fragile, their lifespans pitiful, scoffed Varictel, a Virexi diplomat whose race once hunted the megabeasts of Zarnes Prime into extinction. His gills flared in amusement, cyan-colored tendrils twitching with condescension. Their species couldn't survive 5 rotations on a death world, and yet they send this signal as if we should fear them. On the central hollow platform hovered a transmission, Earth signal. Not a cry, not a plea, a declaration. It wasn't encoded in fear. It was raw, pulsing with defiance. Every translator AI across the sectors confirmed the tone. A warning. Still, the council remained unconvinced. Until the doors to the great chamber hissed open. Commander Lyra Mendez entered, armored in the jet-black kinetic suit of Earth's Vanguard Corps, with a poise carved by war and centuries of ancestral grit. Behind her stood the delegation of Earth. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats. And something else. Something the other species couldn't quite quantify. Unshakable calm. Permission to speak? Lyra's voice cut through the stale, smug air like a razor. You may, Varictel said, barely hiding his grin. Though we do hope you won't threaten us with your primitive muscle displays. She stepped forward, raising her arm. The hollow shifted to a rotating sphere. Carthus V. A death world colonized by no species due to its gravitational shear fields and apex predator dominance. Lyra tapped her wristpad. Playback initiated. Footage showed a team of humans in exosuits trekking across Carthus V's obsidian cliffs under gravity that would crush most species. Their breathing steady, their weapons silent. Then the screen shook as a Drarek, the dominant predator species, 12 feet tall, armored with chitin, acid spitting, launched from the jungle. The creature lunged. The human didn't fire. She dropped her weapon, raised one hand, and knelt. The Drarek stopped, then impossibly bowed. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Commander Lyra locked eyes with the room. Respect isn't given. It's earned. Even on Carthus V. The moment stunned the delegates. The Virexi diplomat tried to interject. But now the tide had shifted. Curiosity overtook mockery. One of the Zenthari, a species known for their logic-driven culture and massive neural networks, leaned forward. You communicated with it? A sentient predator. Lyra nodded. We didn't just survive Carthus V. We learned its language, the signs, its dominant structure. We adapted. Adapted, murmured Deshern, a tall, feathered diplomat from the Heroin Confederacy. No species has lasted more than 2 days on that planet. Our longest deployment was 60, Lyra said, her tone even. We only left because we ran out of predators. As the session adjourned, Varictel slithered toward her. Tell me, Commander, he hissed, sarcasm leaking through. Is brute strength the only thing your species excels at? Or do you hope to teach the Drarek calculus next? Lyra smiled. Actually, she said, Dr. Aisha Khan, our xenolinguist, taught one how to play chess. It beat her in 4 moves. Later that cycle, in the private quarters of the human delegation aboard the orbiting diplomatic vessel Unity's Edge, Dr. Khan was pacing. They still don't believe it, she muttered, dark curls bouncing as she paced across the floor. Even after all that, they think we're freaks that got lucky. Good, replied Lyra, sipping her rehydrated coffee. Let them. Underestimation is the best weapon we've got. And the worst for them, muttered Lieutenant Reeve, polishing the carbon steel blade he refused to give up, even in an era of plasma rifles. You saw the footage. The Drarek didn't kneel for nothing. It saw something in us, Khan whispered. Predator to predator. Meanwhile, aboard the Council vessel Vornix Eternal, Varictel was not sleeping. He was seething. They kneel to predators, he muttered to himself. poring over the footage again. They adapt to death worlds. They move like prey but think like monsters. He tapped his neural link. Activate Project Prism. I want a deep dive on Earth's military history, psychological profiles, and extinction event survivability. Full sweep. No filters. Warning, the AI replied. Viewing unfiltered Earth data has previously caused cognitive trauma in over 62% of test subjects. Proceed anyway. What followed was 6 hours of unbroken, brutal history. Earth's genocides, civil wars, extinction events, resilience under pressure that shattered empires. Varictel vomited twice. By the end, his tendrils lay limp. They were forged in chaos, he whispered, trembling. They never needed to unify. They needed to outlive. His final report to the council was one line. We have not made first contact with a race. We have awakened a force of nature. Back aboard Unity's Edge, the human delegation received a message. It wasn't diplomatic. It wasn't hostile. It was reverent. The Drarek Hive clan sent a request to meet with Lyra again, face to face. Not a single alien race has ever had more than one encounter with them, Khan breathed. And they want you back. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Then we go. Closing narrative voice. For YouTube/audiobook style. The galaxy had watched Earth's signal and laughed. They saw small frames, soft flesh, and limited lifespans. But what they failed to see, what only the apex predators recognized, was the shadow behind human eyes. The memories of world wars. The resilience born from extinction. The mind that adapts, and the heart that never breaks. And now, the galaxy no longer laughs. While alien mathematicians struggled for centuries, one human solved the equation in minutes. The halls of the Zentraxian data citadel pulsed with blue light, flowing like veins through the titanium bones of the fortress. Suspended in the low-gravity environment of Zale 4, the galaxy's greatest minds drifted among data streams, pondering equations older than their civilizations. For over 3 centuries, the Celestial Code had defied them. A multiversal encryption layer embedded in a derelict artifact discovered drifting beyond the Oort-like rim of a dead solar system. The code, etched in impossible geometry and recursive variables, was believed to contain coordinates, perhaps even a message from a race predating known history. Teams of Zentraxian calculus priests, Ulari dreamweavers, and even the synthetic intellects of the Tricol Order had tried and failed to decipher it. And now, standing amidst them with arms crossed and a cup of lukewarm Terran coffee in hand, was a single human, Dr. Maya El-Rahim. She didn't look like much to the gathered minds. Thin-framed, with dark curls tied in a lazy bun and a stubborn stain on her coat from lunch. She seemed more interested in the flickering hologram of the code than in the reverence the others had attached to it. She's going to fail like the others, whispered Sarntek, a plasma-blooded Dralix mathematician who floated nearby, tendrils twitching dismissively. Another organic chasing an impossible tale. Maya ignored him. Her mind was a hurricane. Quiet on the outside, but inside. They're all trying to read it like it's just math, she thought, narrowing her eyes. But this is music. Lines danced across her retinal display. Recursive patterns. Harmonic oscillations. She adjusted a few variables in the simulation and suddenly, the code sang. Like a ripple in glass, the impossible script stabilized. The surrounding chamber dimmed as every screen lit up in perfect alignment. The celestial code decrypted in real time. Rows of coordinates, particle sequences, and a phrase that sent an audible shudder through the alien onlookers. We were here first. The silence was electric. You could have heard an antimatter pin drop. Maya blinked, leaned back in her harness, and sipped her coffee. So, she muttered casually, can someone get me a chair that doesn't float? High orbit Zale 4 2 hours later. Admiral Threx of the Voran Imperium paced in front of the Galactic Council projection. His hardened scales rippled in agitation. She solved it? One human? A problem the greatest artificial minds of the car systems failed to even model. Yes, said Counselor Tyrvier of the Crystalline Etherians, still trying to process what they'd witnessed. In under 8 minutes. She described it as, what did she call it? A really pretty logic puzzle. Tyrvier's voice cracked with disbelief. Threx's snarl echoed in the chamber. This is why they're dangerous. We thought them feral primitives, but their brains, uncatalogued. Unpredictable. No consistent quantum pattern. They break the mold, whispered Tyrvier. And the rules, Threx growled. Meanwhile, Maya's quarters. Maya tapped out notes on her tablet, oblivious to the political storm brewing. Her room was humble. Bare metal. A cot. A small plant she'd grown from a Martian seed pod. But the silence didn't last. The door buzzed. She looked up. Commander Rourke, her mission lead and one of Earth's most decorated field strategists, stepped in. His shoulders barely fit through the entrance, and his military utility suit still carried dust from the diplomatic skirmish on Marnos 7. You just made half the galaxy wet themselves, he said, leaning against the wall. Maya raised an eyebrow. Over a math problem? You solved the uncrackable code, gave them access to star systems thought lost in myth. And you did it while munching on dried banana chips. I'm out of banana chips now, she said dryly. You're also out of anonymity, he added. They're scared, Maya. Not just impressed. Afraid. And scared aliens make stupid decisions. She swallowed, her humor slipping away. Do you think they'll? They won't attack. Not openly. But they're watching us now. All of us. Maya nodded slowly. Then maybe it's time they started watching a little closer. Aboard the Council supercarrier Veilshura. Emergency session. Over 50 species represented in holographic arcs. Nervous murmurs. The decrypted message had already gone viral across private networks. Panic brewed beneath civility. They solved a riddle our minds couldn't grasp, growled Archseer Jinxel of the Harcane. It was not meant to be opened. Counselor Breen of the Tricol AI network pulsed in response. And yet they did. What else can these humans solve? What other secrets will they break? They're unstable, said one. Brilliant but chaotic. They are Deathworlders, said another. But they smile like diplomats. Threx slammed his clawed hand against the podium. They unlocked a gate that should have stayed closed. We need oversight. Control. From the shadows, a deep, melodic voice answered. Or we could accept the truth. Gasps followed. The speaker emerged, Ambassador Lysarian, a once skeptical Elvari noble whose people had dismissed humanity as unworthy of galactic attention. I watched that human, Maya El-Rahim, solve what our machines could not. Not with aggression, not with violence, with insight, intuition. This is not a threat, but an invitation to evolve. But if they surpass us, Threx began. They already have, Lysarian interrupted. And the wise course now is not war. It is alliance. The room simmered. Earth UNSC Lunar Relay Station. General Kyra Danvers stood before a 3D projection of Maya's decrypted code. She traced her fingers along the ancient symbols, now translated into clean Terran standard. Coordinates. Blueprints. A map to something massive. Do we know where it leads? She asked. Her aide swallowed. It's on the edge of the null zone, beyond Trinera space. Uncharted. Worse. Forbidden. She smiled, razor sharp. Then I guess it's time we explore the forbidden. Narrative cutaway. Galactic public broadcast. The screen crackled to life. Footage played. A lone human, floating in a sphere of data, decrypting something ancient with a smile. Her final words echoed across the stars. You all spent centuries solving what I saw as an elegant little poem. Imagine what happens when we stop solving your problems and start solving our own. The message ended. Across hundreds of worlds, species froze. Suddenly, Earth wasn't just a planet on the edge of a spiral arm. It was the beginning of something far, far more dangerous. Final paragraph, cinematic narration tone. As the stars wheeled in silence, and fear crept into the hearts of those who once called themselves galactic superpowers, a single truth reverberated across the cosmos. Humanity had arrived, not to ask for help, not to plead for peace, but to warn them, you were never the smartest ones here. When humans entered the war, victory took only 5 hours, and the galaxy took notice. The skies above Talrun burned blue with plasma fire. Orbiting high above the scarred desert world, 1,000 warships clashed in chaotic formation. The ancient rivalry between the Gorthan Dominion and the Delari Union had spanned centuries, with neither side gaining a decisive edge until today, until humanity arrived. Inside the bridge of the EHS Resolute, Captain Marachand stood silently, her eyes fixed on the flickering tactical display. Around her, Terran officers moved with quiet precision. No shouting, no panic, just cold, efficient coordination. Targets locked on Delari Command Node. Lieutenant Voss reported, his voice crisp. Awaiting authorization. Mara nodded once. Execute. Far below, in the crimson-hued atmosphere of Talrun, a sleek swarm of autonomous Terran drones arced downward like a storm of silver comets. No one, not even the Delari, had expected Earth to intervene in the war. Humans were late arrivals to the galactic stage, viewed as odd, primitive outliers from a violent death world. Their technology was deemed improvised, their biology fragile. But that assessment was about to be rewritten in blood and ion fire. Hours earlier, Delari Command Council, high orbit of Talrun. High Counselor Zval pressed his thoracic digits against the edge of the table, his bioluminescent skin pulsing nervously. You summoned humans? To intervene? That species of soft-tissued brutes. The Gorthan emissary, tall, plated in dark violet armor, and exuding the oily confidence of a veteran warlord, simply smiled. We didn't summon them. They came on their own. Said they had a debt to settle. Zval scoffed. With what? A militia and outdated plasma rifles. The holographic screen behind them shifted. Rows of Terran warships appeared, not in standardized formation like the Delari or Gorthans, but spread like a predatory net. Unorthodox, adaptive, and already in range. Back aboard the EHS Resolute. Gorthan flagship requesting confirmation of joint fire corridor, said Tactical Officer Ramos. Mara nodded. Let them follow our pattern. Execute Plan Halcyon 6. At her command, the Terran fleet split in 3, not symmetrically, but asymmetrically, exploiting known blind spots in Delari sensor arrays. It was a maneuver calculated not by instinct, but by a human teenager named Ravi Patel, a chess prodigy turned warfare analyst who'd seen combat patterns not even AI could model. The aliens called it improvisation. Humans called it survival. Planetfall 40 minutes into the operation. Lieutenant Vera Dolan hit the dusty ground running, her exosuit kicking up powdered rust beneath her boots. Around her, Terran shock troops moved like phantoms, slipping between obsidian rock formations, cloaked by adaptive armor that shifted with the landscape. Team Echo, flank north and breach the comm spire. We cut their eyes, we end this, she said over comms. Inside the Delari base, crystalline structures jutted like alien spines from the sand. Automated turrets swiveled toward the humans, but too late. Dolan's team moved faster than any Delari models had anticipated. The Delari relied on predictive models. But humans? They thrived in chaos. Fireteam Echo, breach complete, said Sergeant Miles, detonating a shaped charge against the spire's core. Signal disruption confirmed. Gorthan battlecruiser Vraldrake, 2 hours in. Commander Threx of the Gorthan Warcast watched the human assault unfold through his bridge viewport. What he saw was horrifying, beautiful, impossible. The humans were not just winning. They were dismantling the enemy. Dolan's ground teams had taken the Delari forward base in 17 minutes. The autonomous drone fleet had decapitated command nodes in orbit without sustaining a single casualty. The Gorthan battle sim algorithms couldn't replicate the strategy, because it had no precedent. The humans didn't follow war doctrine. They rewrote it. This is not a battle, Threx whispered. This is an extinction event, delivered with surgical elegance. Meanwhile, Delari Primary Intelligence Core. Inside the Delari AI network, data flowed in bursts of light and sound. Calculations screamed in desperation. But the variables no longer made sense. Human patterns defied logic matrices. They adjusted mid-conflict, sacrificed units with precision, and deployed weapons based on psychological manipulation, not brute strength. And worse, they learned. Every mistake was corrected within seconds. The Delari Corps calculated remaining survival time. 5 hours. Back on EHS Resolute Hour 4. Delari fleet is fracturing, Ramos reported. They've lost intership synchronization. Captain Marachin nodded. Maintain pressure. Deploy Ghost Protocol. A flicker passed across the void. Terran warships powered down external emissions. They vanished from sensors, drifting silently into Delari blind zones before striking with devastating kinetic payloads. Not plasma, not lasers, just tungsten rods, dropped at orbital velocity. Sometimes, simplicity was more terrifying than elegance. Hour 5 silence falls. It ended not with a final barrage but with stillness. The Delari flagship, its hull sheared and venting plasma, sent a surrender pulse to all frequencies. The message was simple. We yield. Earth cease. And the galaxy took notice. Not just of the speed, not just of the victory, but of the ruthlessness wrapped in human calm. The war had ended in 5 hours, a conflict that had lasted for generations. And the ones who ended it were the species everyone had once mocked for being too emotional, too fragile, too unrefined. Post-war Council, Galactic Central Concord, week later. The chamber was silent as Captain Chun stepped forward. The representatives of dozens of species, cold-eyed, furred, scaled, and feathered, all watched her with a newfound caution. The Delari ambassador didn't speak. He couldn't. Chun said nothing about victory, nothing about vengeance. She simply set a black data cube on the table. It began to play a loop, scenes of destruction, but not gleeful slaughter. Every Terran strike had been targeted. Every move designed to end the war with minimal suffering. And yet, the message was clear. Earth wasn't crying for help. It was warning the galaxy, we are not what you think. Epilogue. Far from the councils and battlefields, in a forgotten crater on Talrune, a Delari child walked alone among the ruins. She found a piece of Terran tech, a small patch sewn into a soldier's armor. It showed an ancient earth animal, a wolf, baring its teeth. Beneath it were 3 words in Terran standard. We survive together. She stared at the patch for a long time, and in her alien heart, she felt something new. The day humanity arrived with blood on their ships changed everything forever. The stars over Velker burned white-hot, watching silently as the last human vessel drifted into orbit. Scars streaked across its hull like brutal brushstrokes, gouges from plasma impacts, molten scoring from orbital flak. But the ship remained aloft, intact, victorious. They had come with blood on their ships, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session, high above the crystalline towers of Thales Prime. Thousands of delegates across species and worlds were still reeling from what the humans had done, what they had become. No one had expected them to survive, let alone win. Inside the chamber, Ambassador Corazel of the Solari Collective spoke, his voice a ripple through the holographic assembly. What we witnessed on Velker was not war, it was annihilation. In 5 hours, an entire Dominion armada was turned to slag by a species with less than a century of warp capability. Gasps and flickers of disbelief echoed across the chamber. The Cernari delegates curled their neck horns in visible discomfort. The Threxan blinked rapidly, confused and wary. Ambassador Ray Chun stood alone, calm among the storm. A single human among thousands of alien diplomats. Her uniform bore the seal of Earth, black, silver, and stained from battle. She didn't flinch when the entire chamber turned their gaze toward her. We came in peace, she said softly. You brought war to our doorstep. We just answered. The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. 3 days earlier, on Velker's surface, the true cost of that answer was still burning. Sergeant Leo Vasquez crouched behind the charred wreckage of a Dominion tank beast, its thick biometal hide still pulsing faintly with heat. Around him, human marines moved like ghosts through the fog of war. No one spoke. There was nothing left to say. What had started as a defensive strike escalated into a full-scale planetary siege. The Dominion had expected easy prey. Instead, they'd walked into a coordinated human assault using tactics the galaxy had never seen: multi-pronged flanks, electronic counter-warfare, orbital precision strikes, and a will to win that refused to die. Vasquez adjusted the scope of his rail rifle and scanned the canyon ahead. Smoke curled into the alien sky, purple clouds drifting under a broken sun. The local fauna had long since fled. Even the Dominion command signals had gone silent. They weren't fighting anymore. They were hiding. Private Kim scrambled beside him, dropping into cover. Her helmet visor was cracked, face streaked with soot. "Sir, recon drone says the last enemy holdouts in the temple complex. About 40 soldiers and something big." "Define big," Vasquez asked, eyes narrowing. "Four-legged. Biomech hybrid. Probably a warborn." Vasquez cursed under his breath. Figures they'd save their pet monster for last. He tapped into squad comms. "Alpha team, we move in 2. Stack left. Beta, cut through the east wall. We go surgical. No fireworks unless that thing roars." The humans moved. No hesitation. No fear. Just quiet resolve. The temple was a relic, ancient Dominion architecture. Obsidian spires rising like teeth from the ground. Symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly as they passed. Perhaps once sacred, now just a bunker for the desperate. Inside, Vasquez's boots echoed in the grand atrium. He swept left. Kim took center. Seconds passed. Then, crash. A beast surged from the shadows. 10 feet tall, its metal limbs fused with organic tissue. It howled in frequencies that made the air tremble. Most species would freeze. Most would run. Vasquez sprinted toward it. He fired twice, each shot slamming into the warborn's side with enough force to crater armor. It reeled, bellowed, charged. Kim dove sideways, unloading her sidearm into its face. Sparks. Blood. Roar. "Now!" Vasquez shouted. From above, Corporal Idris dropped onto the creature's back, slamming a shaped charge into the base of its skull. A heartbeat later, boom! Silence. The beast crumpled, twitching once. Then still. The humans stood over it, breathing hard, not victorious, but alive. That was enough. Back in the council chamber, the vote was about to be cast. The motion: recognition of humanity as a sovereign military power. A century ago, Earth had barely discovered faster-than-light travel. 50 years ago, they had pleaded for a place in the Galactic Accord. Now, they stood on the edge of galactic influence, covered in blood and glory. Ambassador Ray Chun stepped forward. "You judged us by our biology, by our gravity, our history, our lack of colonies. You thought we were fragile, naive, temporary." Her voice didn't rise, it didn't need to. "But you forgot one thing." She paused. Every eye was on her. "We were born on a death world." A flicker passed through the crowd, some recoiling, some remembering the footage from Velker. The way human soldiers fought, the look in their eyes. Ray continued, "We didn't conquer Velker for territory. We didn't destroy the Dominion to prove dominance. We did it because they gave us no choice. That's what we do when threatened. We adapt. We fight. We endure." A Cernari delegate hissed. "And when you've destroyed all your enemies, what then, human?" Chun looked at him. "Then we rebuild. And we remember." The chamber voted. One by one, light signals changed from red to green. Earth status was affirmed. In orbit, Captain Darius Lang stood at the bridge of the Aegis Resolve, watching the stars through a fractured viewport. He'd lost 78 crew members in the battle. Friends. Family. But they'd won. He tapped the console. A new transmission was being prepared. A message not of surrender or threat but warning. A beacon sent out on every known frequency. Embedded in every major language. Laced with the raw footage of Velker. He activated it. "To any who would challenge Earth, understand this. We didn't ask to be part of your galaxy. You dragged us in. And now you know who we are. We do not start wars, but we end them. As the signal radiated into deep space, bouncing across relays and wormholes, a quiet settled over the stars. Across hundreds of worlds, beings paused, watching, listening. On the blood-stained bridge of the Aegis Resolve, Lang closed his eyes. Humanity was no longer the outsider, no longer underestimated. They were here, and the galaxy would never forget.